Hi there, Evan. It is Hannah here, and welcome to your birth chart reading. So, I just wanted to jump on here really quickly to say hello to you and to, of course, thank you so much for purchasing this reading from myself. I do hope, Evan, that you're able to benefit from this reading today in both practical and constructive ways moving forward. And I also hope that just overall you enjoy it, that you learn something from it, and that you get what you truly want out of it. So with all that being said then, Evan, let's jump right into your reading.
Okay, Evan, so firstly, to begin your reading, I would like to highlight that your most dominant signs are Libra followed by Cancer. And then your most dominant planets are the Moon followed by Venus. Now, this is quite fitting here because, of course, the Moon is the ruler of Cancer within astrology, and then Venus is the ruler of Libra within astrology. Then, lastly, just to mention here, Evan, most of your chart is comprised of a high altitude of water energy along with a high altitude of cardinal energy. Now, cardinal energy really does take up a lot of this chart with about 52%. And of course, cardinal water is the combination that makes up for the sign of Cancer within astrology. So, with that all kind of being said, when we look to your birth chart, Evan, we notice that you have a Libra rising along with your moon in Libra, and then you also have your sun, which is in Cancer. So there are these Libra Cancer themes within the chart. So what we're going to do is we're going to explore these themes, and we're going to start off by looking at this Libra rising energy. Now, what's quite interesting about this, Evan, is that there's this Jupiter energy, and it's at an exact degree with your Libra rising. So you got your Jupiter in Libra conjunct this ascendant sign. And so therefore what I'm going to put this as is Jupiter being located within your first house. So in an overall sense, Evan, I think that you're somebody who you have this zest for life. You have this real curiosity towards life, to want to explore, to want to grow, to want to expand yourself further. You may be very conscious of what you can learn from other people. You may be very conscious of the relationships that you develop and you form with others, where you really do take a lot of lessons away from what you gain from these relationships. And I also think that you may have a very positive outlook towards relationships overall. Maybe you're somebody who you really want to not just explore the world on your own, but you want to explore it with somebody else. You want to explore it with somebody else by your side who is encouraging you, who's motivating you, who's uplifting you, who is making you feel inspired. And maybe you get a lot of inspiration from other people that you meet. Now, this could be a partner who you seek to be with and explore the world with, and explore them in a way too, where you really do get curious about their life and their experiences, etc. But this could also be friends. This can be different people that come in and out of your life who you really look to and you think, well, no matter who it is, it's these individuals that can really teach you something about life. Maybe you just have such a grandiose way of seeing things, or maybe you have this way of being able to always see the silver lining within the relationships you develop, and just when it comes to life overall. And so when it comes to you entering into new experiences and new chapters throughout your life, Evan, I think you're somebody who goes in with these hopes of things turning out well. You go in with high hopes, with optimism, with positivity, and with a real desire and drive to learn something new. And throughout this process, you gain so much. You can gain a lot of knowledge from new experiences. You can gain a lot of knowledge from the people that you meet within these new experiences. And I also think that growing up, maybe education was quite prominent in the sense of higher learning. So maybe you were really encouraged growing up to to grow and to learn about life, and to inform yourself about different events around the world, or to keep yourself up to date with the certain topics and subjects that can help you enhance further in some way. Maybe university or higher educational programs were strongly encouraged growing up, or perhaps you were raised within an environment where there was a lot of this going on. There was a lot of talk of, you got to get the education, you got to get the grades, you got to know what you're talking about, you need to get yourself sort of up to speed academically, so that you can go after amazing opportunities and experiences. And so maybe growing up, you just had this very forward moving way of viewing the world, where you're like, oh, I'm excited to see what life has to offer, I'm excited to see what chapters may unfold. So yeah, perhaps the educational side and the academic side was strongly encouraged, and so these things influence your life a lot. Now, another possibility could be that you were raised in an environment where religion was quite prominent, where religious values and beliefs were very prominent. Maybe relationships specifically were a focus here, where you have then certain religious beliefs towards relationships and the types of people that you want to be with, the type of partner that you want to associate yourself with and potentially be with long term. Maybe also you looked to the relationships within your own environment, and you were taught a lot about what they mean. And so it's these lessons associated with these things that you then start to view the world through this lens. And in terms of just religious principles and values, maybe a strong part of this is connected with being fair and being equal and being kind and just being really genuine and honest and nice to other people. It's these types of values, I feel, that may have strongly impacted you growing up. And so as you kind of move throughout your life, maybe you're just a very kind and polite and social and friendly individual. You're somebody who you don't want to necessarily create discord with other people. You don't necessarily want to get people hated or in difficult situations. If anything, you're probably someone, Evan, who you always like to make sure that things are smoothed over and things are good and things are just nice, you know? It's these types of very Venetian Libra qualities that may sort of rule your life or lead your life forward. And maybe also when it comes to, of course, the rising sign being associated with self-discovery and sort of leading your life forward in that way towards self-discovery, maybe as you are led towards the whole discovery of life and exploring yourself, maybe you do this in a very poised, very elegant, very just gracious way. And so you may move through these chapters of your life just very open, you know, and even if you have conflicting arguments between people and you don't necessarily agree with them, I feel like you're still somebody who you like to keep things nice and even and nice and level so that people feel comfortable and people feel heard. Now, another thing about this is how, of course, the moon. So the moon is also in Libra in the first house. So what we're seeing from this is, family values maybe being instilled into you growing up, maybe having a mother influence in your life who really encouraged you to, yes, think for yourself and go after the things that you wanted to go after, but also being conscious of other people whilst you do so, being very concerned with other people's needs and other people's opinions and other people's views and how they are also important in this journey as well. And also, maybe the relationship that you had with your mother growing up, or you still have with your mother, is something that you like to keep in balance. You like to make sure that there is a sort of equal exchange there, or that you can gain some sort of feedback from your mother whenever you can. Maybe the relationship with your mother is very important to you. It's something that you hold very dear to yourself, and maybe her lessons and her wisdom and her influence on your life, it's something that will forever remain within you. It's something that you will forever keep as part of your identity, so to speak. Now, of course, there may also be this tendency of you maybe connecting so much with the family opinions, or perhaps specifically your mother's opinions, but we'll just kind of look at this in the sense of your family and your home environment, etc. So like I said, maybe there's a part of this where you can connect so wholeheartedly with these values and principles that maybe you sometimes may struggle to actually identify what your own values and principles are. Maybe you can have this tendency of sort of going along with these values without really stopping to think about, well, what are my values and how do they truly run true for myself? Now, with that being said, I do still think that, this moon influence in this first house, I think that you're maybe quite family orientated, quite conscious of the needs within your family. Maybe you were a caretaker, maybe you were somebody who you would support your family, maybe they also supported you. And I feel as if there was this strong influence of family within your life that has instilled a lot of these views that you have of the world. Though, having said that, there's also this moon energy making a square to Uranus and Neptune, and it's also making a square to Mercury. So there's this T-square going on within the chart. So we'll kind of look at moon making a square to Uranus and Neptune retrograde in the 4th house in Capricorn. And of course you have Capricorn ruling your 4th house, so it's on the IC. So I look at this as, okay, maybe there was a lot of rules, a lot of restrictions to go by within your home life, okay? A lot of very set principles in place that maybe were very much instilled and you had to follow and you had to go with these rules, etc. But I also think that there may have been some tension with this. Perhaps there was the struggle here with authority, the struggle with speaking up or expressing how you felt. Maybe there is a sort of tendency with you of withholding how you feel so that you don't upset the family life. Maybe it's that the family life was so concerned with people being nice and being polite and playing fair and sticking to the rules, and you must do this and you must do that and this is the way it is. But then when it came to certain emotions that you held within yourself, it was like, oh, well, I can't necessarily express that. I can't necessarily let that out because I don't want to upset other people. I don't want to step on their toes. I don't want to have my mother, think a certain way about me, or I don't want to have my family view me in a certain light. It's all these different maybe tensions that perhaps arose within the family environment, but more specifically just within yourself towards your family. And also when we kind of reflect back here a little bit on how I was talking about you identifying with family values and not necessarily thinking about your own, I also think there may be a bit of a tension with this. We also got to keep in mind that Uranus specifically is very much about independence and freedom and breaking free and being rebellious and not necessarily sticking to the guidelines. And then we also have to keep in mind that Neptune energy also it's very fluid and flexible, and quite chaotic. It can dissolve things. And so I think that this can suggest to me how, Evan, when you sort of decided or got to a point in your life where you're like, right, okay, do you know what? I want to start thinking for myself. I want to start thinking about, well, what it is that I want in my life. Maybe there was a bit of this tug or this tension with the family then of like, oh no, are you sure you should do that? Or oh flip, you're breaking the rules, or you're not really sticking to what is expected of you right now, Evan. This is too much. We can't keep up with this. We can't sustain this enough. And maybe it just created a lot of these fears of like you fearing that by doing something for yourself or doing something much more independent in comparison to your own family, fearing that these things would upset the harmony, would upset the balance, would upset the environment that you grew up in. But I also think that with this Uranus and Neptune retrograde energy in the fourth, these are inward motions. These are things that you're learning to work through from within yourself. So reflecting upon your own individuality and your independence, reflecting upon your own spiritual values, your own spiritual beliefs, your own spiritual path, these types of things, and really trying to identify how you can build those things from within yourself and create this level of consistency there for you. And so moving forward, whenever you go into set up roots somewhere else within your own home, etc., maybe you have this strong desire to be like, right, I want to create my own rules. I want to create an environment where, yes, I can take some lessons and some important things that I learn from the family, etc. But how am I going to do it in a unique way? How am I going to learn from my family's yes, their mistakes, but also learn from the things that they truly taught me and the things that were really, really valuable. But like I said, there is this square energy, so maybe there is some sort of tension with all this. There's a slight difficulty and a challenge with all of this as well. And even if we look at how Uranus and Neptune are in the fourth house here, maybe there have been a lot of sudden changes that you've went through in terms of your own foundation and setting up a home environment for yourself. It could even very well be here that certain family members have suddenly came in and out of your life. Maybe the relationship with your family has been a bit disconnected due to a sudden change or due to something that was very out of the blue, and maybe that has within itself left you feeling a bit like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, who's going to guide me, they're not in my life anymore, or they're not with me as much as they used to be. So maybe this whole process of you moving forward and setting up your own sort of family life for yourself, it's quite daunting and scary, and it's like, am I doing it right? Is this something I can handle? Maybe this can be a very emotionally draining, emotionally overwhelming experience for you too. But I think still with this Capricorn energy ruling this fourth house, it is teaching you a lot about how to be an authority at home, how to take charge at home, how to build those solid foundations at home. Yes, we're noticing the rockiness, things being shaken up within the home. We're noticing the detachment a little bit from the family, or sudden changes happening within the family, creating a lot of discord, and that's something that maybe was very unsettling. But we're noticing as well that as you grow and as you mature and as you age, it's taking responsibility of the present, taking responsibility of what you can do now moving forward for yourself, and really growing into that. Now, we want to look also at Saturn, okay? So Saturn is at 0 degrees in Pisces and it's retrograde in the 5th house. So we're looking at Saturn because it's going to give us more information into this 4th house energy with Capricorn. And this is suggesting to me then that maybe there has been some sort of disconnect, specifically maybe with a father figure, specifically with an authoritative figure growing up. Maybe there were concerns with your father's influence whenever you were younger. Maybe you were more closer with your mother in comparison to your father a little bit. Or maybe quite possibly it's just that there was a lot of this kind of lacking of responsibility, I suppose. Maybe there was some difficulties between parental figures. Maybe there were some hardships that happened. This could have been a situation where a parental figure was struggling with addiction. They were struggling to keep themselves kind of above water, so to speak. Maybe they felt quite drowned in their own emotional disparity a lot of the times. Or maybe they struggled with mental health issues. Maybe they really struggled just to be there, to be a parent for you. And so there was this kind of disconnect. Or maybe it's just that you lack structure. There was a lack of this structured influence in your life, or like a heavy hand within your life. But another thing could even just very well be that this is about you sort of coming to terms with your own rules and your own regulations and your own structure and your own ability to stabilize your life moving forward. And maybe there's just either a lack of responsibility, or even possibly you having to take a lot of responsibility, sort of being forced to take responsibility from a very young age. But still, regardless of how it actually played out, it's this Saturn energy retrograde in Pisces, suggesting that as you do really approach your Saturn return, which will not be for another couple of years yet, but as you kind of do start to reach your Saturn return, maybe what will start to come to light is like about you, okay, what is it I want to do in terms of being a parent, in terms of being an authority, in terms of career, and how that aligns with your spiritual values, or how that aligns with what you feel guided to do. Maybe there was a lack of that sort of compassionate guiding energy that really helped you see things for what they were, or maybe things were just quite blurry, or things were just a bit chaotic and very mysterious, and maybe there's a lot of secrets, a lot of hidden things happening within your environment growing up. But as you kind of age, like I said, you're coming to understand like how to go, right, I need to get clear with this. I need to get very clear about what I want, about my future, about my direction. I want to get in touch with my intuition. I want to get in touch with the things that I want to instill into myself and live my life according to these things, and just really, building yourself up. Now, of course, this energy is happening in the 5th house. So this is also why I talked about parenting. Maybe it is that as you sort of more approach your Saturn return, you'll start to have these feelings of like, do I want to be a parent? Or if it is that you currently already are a parent, maybe you'll start to have this whole new outlook of being a parent and what that really means. Now, it could even very well be the fact that there is this retrograde happening. Maybe it is that you have struggled with children before. Maybe you have you've had a child before with somebody, and there has been a bit of a disconnect with that child, or you haven't really been as involved with that child as you would have liked. Or this can just be children that are your nieces and nephews, this type of way, where there's children within the family, for example, and maybe it's these children that have went through some sort of hardships themselves, or it's that you feel the hardships from these children, or you feel a lot of empathy due to their hardships. So maybe a part of this is connected with this whole children aspect, and what it means to be an adult who protects children and guides them and really helps encourage them, and somebody who is self-serving towards children, but also just looking at creation in general when it comes to the 5th house, and looking at confidence and looking at self-expression. Maybe there's been some limits and blockages when it comes to your own self-expression and your own ego and your own identity. And maybe there's also the conflicts here with you really coming into your own. Maybe you growing up just had this way about you of unknowingly shaping yourself into other people's identities in a way to sort of fit in, or in a way to feel seen in some way. Maybe growing up in terms of connecting with other children within your environment, or just when it comes to expressing yourself, you didn't feel all that seen or heard. Maybe there is a lack of confidence. Maybe there's a feeling of being invisible, or being that person in the room that nobody gets, nobody understands. But as I say, approaching the Saturn return, maybe a lot of this will start to unfold. It's almost like you'll be forced to look at your own confidence and how you really do express yourself and put yourself out there, put yourself out into the spotlight, but doing it in a way that is just so healing for you, and is so it's in a way that helps you sort of piece together all of those parts of you that maybe you've denied throughout your life. Those parts of you that you've sort of hidden and locked away. And furthermore, we also notice that Saturn is making an opposition to Chiron. So Chiron is in Leo in the 11th house. We're also noticing with this here, Evan, the blow to the ego, the lack of confidence within yourself, the feelings of inadequacy, the not feeling good enough for other people, the tendency of you keeping yourself back from putting yourself out there with groups and clubs, etc., that you're a part of. Maybe friendships have really hurt you in the past. Maybe this whole sense of community has been a very difficult, struggling part of your life. And even if we're to connect this furthermore in with the fourth house, and then this first house energy. Yes, I talked a lot about family and everything else, but if you think about community and togetherness, this all very much starts at the home. The family is the very first community that we are born into. And so maybe for you, a lot of your wounds are maybe connected with the family life a little bit, or maybe they're connected with just not feeling necessarily seen or heard within the family, and then how that then impacts you within other social settings. This is just, of course, a potentiality, but still, going back to this Chiron energy specifically, maybe it is that you felt outcasted before, or you felt like a freak. You felt like you don't have what it takes to speak up or to say whatever is on your mind. Maybe the uniqueness that you hold, that sort of special part of you that is individual to you, is something that was denied or shut down. And furthermore, we're also noticing with the moon energy, kind of going back to that, the moon making a square to Mercury. Of course, Mercury is in Cancer in the 10th house. I think we're kind of seeing with this the implications with talking about your emotions a little bit, the implications with expressing how you truly feel, specifically maybe with family, but also how these things have impacted your career and your profession. Yes, there is this Mercury influence in the 10th house suggesting that you really do seek after a career where you can speak, where you can communicate, where you can network with other people, where you can connect with other people. But I also think that maybe there's this tendency of you sort of lacking the ability to really say what is on your mind and holding your own within that. Maybe you can doubt in your own abilities in terms of communication, or maybe you can sometimes feel as if what you have to say isn't really all that valid, or maybe you fear that other people will just ridicule you or sort of talk you down, or not really listen to what it is that you have to say. Though I also think with this as well, maybe you're somebody who, right, there's the Mercury and Cancer energy, you can just really reflect a lot on what you're about to say. You can take a moment just to kind of, okay, I want to accumulate my thoughts, I want to get everything together, I want to really think about what it is this person is saying and feel into what this person is saying. And maybe there can be a bit of a conflict with this, or a bit of tension with this, where sometimes people talk over you, or sometimes people don't give you a chance to really speak or give you time to respond sometimes, or maybe sometimes your thoughts are misconstrued for feeling a certain way. And also it could even be that your moods can strongly be influenced by what other people are telling you. And yes, this can suggest that you're a very compassionate and sort of empathetic individual. You're somebody who does think about others, and you're very conscious of other people's emotional needs, etc. And you can be very emotionally supportive. But I also think that you can reflect that back to other people, where then you start feeling that way, and then you start absorbing those emotions, and that maybe can create a little bit of discord at times where there can be misunderstandings, etc. Which also, can I just say here, Evan, that you are a Cancerian, so your sun is in Cancer. And so therefore, you probably are somebody who is very family orientated. You're somebody who you think about the past quite a bit, or you hold on to certain family traditions and values and they mean a lot to you. Or you're somebody who is just very much in tune with your own emotions, and you are guided by your emotions. You are driven by them. You're somebody who you identify so much with your emotions and what they communicate to you about yourself, and they communicate to you about other people. You may be very intuitive. You may pick up on other people's emotions very, very clearly. And whenever you do, yes, there can be this reflective part of it, but I also think that there can be this emotionally supportive part of it where you can be so good at just showing other people that they're not alone. And I also think it's these sort of themes and qualities that can be brought into the sphere of career, can be brought into your professional life, where maybe you work alongside individuals who need that emotional support and that emotional care. Or this could be you working alongside certain families, getting out into your local community to help out with families who are maybe going through it themselves. Or could even be you working alongside female figures, or working with women and wanting to support women, or wanting to support people who are going through emotional issues, whether they be male or female. And I also think that with the sun energy making a conjunction to the midheaven, maybe being a leader is something that you're really fascinated about. Being a manager, being somebody who is on the front line, who is leading things forward, who is really standing up for other people and their care and the support that they receive. Maybe you want to be known as somebody who really does cater towards the public's needs and its well-being. But again, it's like being that person who leads that, who takes charge of that. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be you being the complete number one leader. I mean, this could be a supervisor, this could be a manager, this could be just a boss of like a little team that you have. But I feel that whenever you step into that authoritative leadership role, maybe you really do come to life, you shine, you glow, you just come into yourself, and you can really come out of your shell as well. And maybe also you gain a lot of emotional sort of satisfaction and fulfillment by taking on this type of role, by taking on these responsibilities. And also you can gain a lot of this emotional satisfaction from just entering into a career that is catering towards other people's needs overall. Though another thing about this, of course, is how the sun is in the 9th house. It's actually in the 9th house. And therefore, this is suggesting to me that, okay, maybe more specifically, this is looking at leading within a mentoring area, a mentoring field, looking at teaching, looking at guiding others, looking at being a person who you not only are educating yourself on how to help other people, but you are also teaching other people how to help themselves as well. I also think too, with the Gemini energy in the 9th house, you just have a lot of curiosity about you when it comes to knowledge and learning. You're maybe somebody, you like to pick up a little bit of this, a little bit of that from different articles you read, from different pieces of academics that you learn about. Maybe also when it came to higher knowledge growing up, you just had a lot of these different ideas. You were like, well, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. Oh my gosh, there's so many things I want to do, I want to try. Just very multifaceted in that way. So you may have a lot of this kind of scattered energy towards knowledge and just absorbing all of that. But whenever you are doing that, I think that you really do take in all of that information emotionally. Of course, the sun, like I said, is in Cancer in the 9th, so it's whatever you learn basically. So whatever knowledge you pick up on, it's almost like you take on the emotions associated with that knowledge, and you're very good at retaining the information. Your memory may be very good in that way, but more specifically, if that information has impacted you emotionally. But then, like I said earlier, it's then communicating that outward. It's showing that to other people. It's sharing that knowledge with other people in hopes of maybe making an impact and influencing them and inspiring them in some way, shape, or form. And furthermore, we also notice that the North Node is in Sagittarius in the third house. Now, keeping in mind the South Node is this area of life that is very comfortable to us, whereas the North Node is something to sort of move towards. It can be a bit of an uncomfortable area, but I digress. With the South Node then in Gemini in the 9th house, we are noticing here the academic side of things. You know, you've got Jupiter here on the ascendant. It's right there, exact degree with the Libra rising. And then we notice in the 9th house, of course, the ruler of Jupiter within astrology, we notice your South Node is there. So there is this sheer curiosity, wanderous mentality about you. Somebody wants to explore, you want to discover, you want to travel, you want to pick up all of those amazing pieces of information from your environment. But with the North Node in the 3rd house, this is, I feel, more so about you moving towards this direction where you can actually learn a lot from just casual conversations. It's almost like just going deeper and wider in those more chit-chatty conversations. And maybe you're somebody who you would much rather just look at the academic side of things, look at the bigger picture, look at all those different subjects, etc., and just do, okay, little bit. But actually, maybe where you're coming to realize is how you can learn a lot, how you can really dive deep and get to know a lot of information from just those casual chit-chatty conversations. So maybe getting out into your local community, getting out within your neighborhood, within your local city, and properly discovering and exploring. Now, of course, I completely understand that right now in the world, maybe is a bit difficult to explore as much as we used to, but hopefully that will start to lighten over the next while. But still, there is this adventurous side here. It's just getting the most that you can out of just those daily simplified interactions with others, and finding the joy in learning and gaining a lot of happiness and fun from learning, and just trying to create a lot of that spontaneity and enthusiasm with it. And you know, it is interesting because of course you got the Sun in the 9th house, so you already are somebody who is very adventurous and you're willing to really explore, etc. But maybe the North Node in the 3rd house is more so, okay, actually properly communicating that with others, like talking about all the different things you've learned about with others. Maybe just being able to express all those pieces of wisdom that you've picked up. Now, as I was sort of saying earlier, maybe there is this tendency with you of maybe being misunderstood, maybe not exactly being heard when it comes to communication, etc. We kind of did talk about that a little bit. And we also noticed that you've got Mercury making an opposition to Uranus and Neptune. So we're also noticing here a bit of this kind of tug of war. We're noticing the, oh my gosh, I don't want to be seen as a weirdo. I don't want to be seen as a freak. Will people actually understand me? I don't want to be talked over. I don't want to be denied. I don't want to be shut out. All these different fears and anxieties and phobias that may exist here when it comes to communication. But I feel like with the North Node in Sagittarius, it's kind of saying, right, well, take those leaps of faith. Just try it. Just see. Just say the thing. Communicate it. Take those risks. Try different approaches, have fun with it, try out different things that you can do within conversation to make it exciting and as a way to keep that enthusiasm and that spark alive, and really getting inspired by the things that you learn about, just even if it's just a simple casual conversation with somebody and just kind of thinking about the positive spin on that, or thinking about how you can feel inspired by just those little things, and looking at that bigger picture and really properly studying it, really properly digesting it, and getting in touch with those subject matters that do excite you, but just like I said, going wider and studying it in a way where you're constantly learning, you're constantly evolving and growing, etc. Now another thing I would like to look at, Evan, is the Mars energy. So you've got this Mars energy in the 11th house, and it's there along with the Chiron energy. So I actually look at this as you're somebody who's quite analytical. You're somebody who you can pay attention to the details a lot. Maybe you're somebody who you focus a lot on human interactions and the groups of people, and you can see the patterns and the themes that go on within society and within your community, etc. And you can really think about what the patterns that you see, and maybe you can look at how you can improve and how you can develop humanity forward and make things better. Maybe you are somebody who you can clearly see what needs to be improved within friendship dynamics, etc. But at the same time, I also think, like I was sort of saying with this Chiron energy, there's the wound, there's these painful experiences associated with friends, etc. So maybe there can also be this tendency of being quite critical in this respect, or maybe getting into some sort of disputes over what you see. Maybe there are some friends that have made you feel a little bit like your own analysis of things have not necessarily mattered, or like your own individual views have not necessarily mattered. Or maybe it's that you can even hold a lot of like inner anger and a lot of rage towards people that you strongly disagree with, but yet it's like, are you going to say the thing? Are you going to speak up? Are you going to assert yourself here? Maybe you can be quite physically assertive within friendships, but it's like at the same time, I also can't help but think that you can resist or feel as if you doing that isn't really the best thing. Or maybe you fear the rejection and the ridicule for doing this. So yeah, there can be these tensions here. And we also notice that you've got Mars making a square to Pluto. So there may be the struggles and the conflicts associated with just asserting yourself and just going, well, I see things this way. This is my analysis. This is my conclusion on things. This is something that I think needs to be improved or needs to be cleaned up. So yeah, there's this tension, but then maybe you can keep things in and bottle them up, and then it creates some repression, and then that repression can create some sort of like inner rage and inner anger and frustrations towards other people. Now, it could even very well be here, of course, with this Mars energy, that there's this fighting, combative energy when it comes to people you are a part of, when it comes to groups, etc. Maybe there's been fighting, etc. But you can be somebody where you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so over this. This is so petty. This is so dumb. Maybe even sometimes, like when it comes to people who are so unintellectual or just don't know what they're talking about, that really pisses you off and really frustrates you. You're like, why are you trying to be somebody that you're not? Or why are you trying to prove yourself to people? Or why would you say something like that when you know very, very little about it? And maybe you can have a bit of frustration towards others, and maybe you're somebody who you may want to be a leader within groups and clubs, etc., but not necessarily with just any group or club. It's like you want to find these individuals who are specific to you and specific to your goals, etc. And maybe you can be very selective in that way when it comes to the sort of friendships that you associate yourself with. And another thing, of course, is how Mars is making an opposition to Saturn. So we're also noticing quite a a back and forth energy here, where you may want to assert yourself and like put yourself out there, but yet on the opposite side of this, it's like, oh my gosh, there's the fears, there's the resistance, there's the restrictions, there's the doubting in your own capabilities, there's the blow to your ego. Again, that's also connected in with Chiron energy as well. So these are maybe just some areas to think about, reflect on a little bit, Evan. Though the last thing that I would like to look at is Venus. Now, Venus, of course, is your chart ruler, because Venus is the traditional ruler of Libra within astrology, and Venus is also your second most dominant planet. Now, your Venus is in Taurus, so this suggests to me that when it comes to relationships, you're somebody who's very slow, very gradual, very steady throughout this whole process, and you're gonna base your relationships upon what you can physically, practically see. You know, how do their actions align with what they're saying, for example? Are they just talking the talk, or do they also walk the walk? You may also be somebody who you show a lot of your affection, a lot of your giving energy by doing things for other people, by really showing them that you care in a physical way. And likewise, of course, we'll also notice that you've got this Mars energy in Virgo, and this is also another earth sign. So this is Venus and Mars energy kind of going on. We are noticing here that having a sort of physical, practical connection with others is important to you. To help out other people, to have people you're in a relationship with give a little bit to you in the sense of being hands-on, showing that they can improve with you, showing that they can build something of value with you, maybe substance is something that's so important to you when it comes to relationships. There's none of this fluff, there's none of this, oh, should we do this, should we not do this, what are we? But no, let's actually try to get an action plan in place here. And likewise, there's also this Venus energy in the 8th house. So this really does suggest to me that when it comes to relationships, you are looking for something that is meaningful, that is deeper in its essence, that really does show that the two parties there are in it, and they're involved, and they're committed, and they're willing to really fight through that, and they're willing to push through those potential power struggles, etc., that can exist within relationships. Now, even just in an overall sense, when it comes to other people, there's just no fluff here. This is serious, this is commitment, this is not taking things lightly. This is showing up for other people and meaning what you say with other people. And I also think that there's a lot of giving energy here. You can be somebody who is highly generous, highly giving, and you may be somebody who you like to shower your partner with gifts, or you like to show intimacy through the things that you can give, or maybe when it comes to connections that you form, you're somebody who you like to just make it very, very clear that those people really mean a lot to you, that they do hold a space within your life. And another thing I would like to mention with this as well is that whenever you do maybe get into a committed relationship with somebody else, it's almost as if you are willing to go through the difficulties that can arise and the challenges that can arise with that. Now, of course, we also got to mention that there's this Pluto energy making an opposition to this Venus energy as well, and Pluto is retrograde. So I will say, just be aware of your tendency to kind of hold on to people that maybe are conflicted with you. And what I mean by this is people who can be quite emotionally manipulative, quite controlling, quite domineering, quite possessive, quite jealous. Now, bear in mind, it might be these qualities that you actually bring out within relationships. There can be this tendency of things becoming quite toxic within certain relationships. There may be a sort of me against you mentality within relationships where it becomes just very heated, bullheaded, very stubborn. Nobody wants to change. Nobody's willing to admit that they're wrong. Now, it's not to say that you can't work through these things, but if anything, I think that there can also be room for transformation. There can be room for healing and growth through these sort of death and rebirth moments when it comes to relationships. Now, this could be with one specific individual that you're with for a long period of time, and then you kind of go through these very monumental chapters with them. Or this can be you getting into a few different relationships throughout your life, and then with every single one, it's like, wow, you learn a lot each and every time. But yeah, still with the Venus energy in Taurus in the 8th house, there is room for evolution when it comes to relationships. And I also think, with Venus in Taurus, it's like the relationships that you develop is full of like affection and cuddles and just being really central with that individual, and also exploring sexual desires within relationships may be very, very important to you. Can I also just say, with the Mars and Virgo energy, the sex drive here could very well be that you are sexually attracted to individuals that are intelligent, or individuals that are much more clean cut or a bit more put together, people who are a bit more reserved, people who aren't necessarily flashy and showy and in your face. Maybe you're sexually attracted to people who don't really feel as if they need to put on a show in order to grab attention. Maybe you're someone who you're attracted to people who are a bit more silent or a bit more reserved in their demeanor. But another thing I would like to mention is how this Venus energy is making a square to Saturn and also a square to Chiron. So there's another T-square going on here. So in a collective way, okay, maybe there are some tensions when it comes to relationships. Now, it could be with partners, also just be with other people in general, maybe some control issues, some ego issues, people being bossy, people being demanding, people being controlling, people wanting to create certain rules and regulations that are restricting within the relationship. Then again, this could be something just within yourself that keeps you back then from fully giving of yourself and serving of yourself within your relationships, and just being like, okay, I'll let my walls down. Maybe you can have these strong walls and boundaries when it comes to relationships. Now, this could be because of past wounds and past experiences where you have been hurt before, and so it's like you're going to guard your heart, you're going to guard yourself from people that may be mistrusting, etc. But essentially, I really think that even if it is that you've went through these experiences, you really do look for a certain relationship that is full of, it's based on trust, it's based on integrity, it's based on honesty and respect. The type of relationship that is more concerned with what you can truly explore deeply with somebody else, how you can create that very deep and close and personal intimate bond with somebody else, and having that trustworthy aspect to it. Though what I will lastly finish off by saying is that Venus is also making a trine. So it's making a trine to Uranus and Neptune and Capricorn in the 4th house. So you know what, I will say this, maybe Evan, you may find that your relationships can come out of nowhere. It's almost like you can get into these sudden relationships with others, or relationships that just they take you on this unexpected journey. The types of relationships that really suck you in very quickly, or they get you sort of swept away in that experience. Maybe also we notice here that when it comes to you actually developing a solid, strong, committed union with somebody else, maybe also the home life and those values are then important to you. So bringing your own sort of spin, and having the accumulated discussions where it's like, okay, what do you want? Oh, this is what you want in a relationship. Well, these are my values. These are my beliefs. These are the things that I want to create within this relationship. How do we build a home together? How do we move towards that together? This can all be very sudden. Just be like, okay, all of a sudden you meet the love of your life, or you meet another individual that just blows you away, and then all of a sudden you're moving in together, and then it's like, well, how about we do this, or how about we try this, or why don't we think about our future plans together? Let's talk about it. It just can all be very, very quick and out of the blue. But I also look at this as you being with somebody who just gets you intellectually, who just understands your weirdness, understands your quirks, understands your eccentricities, and the little things about you, you know, that we were kind of saying earlier with you hiding yourself, you're not really necessarily expressing certain parts of you, but just if you find someone who's like, right, actually, I accept you, I can see deeper into you, I understand your pain, I understand your emotions, I accept you even with all of the family chaos, you know, somebody who just sticks with you through all of that, somebody who's so completely, deeply understanding towards those things and just towards your experiences overall.
Okay, Evan, so that concludes your birth chart reading. Again, thank you so much for purchasing. Now, if you happen to have any questions that you would like to ask me in relation to your reading, then feel free. But also, if you have any feedback that you would like to provide, then that would be greatly appreciated as well. Anyways, Evan, that is me. I hope you have a wonderful week or weekend wherever you are in the world, and I will catch you on the next video on Hannah's Elsewhere or via email.